Hey everyone, and welcome back to Real World, Real Stories, the show where we take real situations from everyday life and learn how to talk about them in natural, confident English. I'm Olivia.
And I'm James. And today I'm very excited because the topic is something I love, travel.
Travel, yes, one of the most popular topics in English conversation, and also one of the topics where learners make so many mistakes.
I already feel attacked, Olivia.
Not attacked, just prepared, because today we're going to cover everything. How to talk about your trips, how to describe where you're going, what you're planning, what happened on your last vacation, all of it.
And by the end of this video, you'll be able to have a full, natural conversation about travel in English. Sound good?
Let's go. Okay, James, let's start with something that confuses almost every learner. There are 4 very common English words that all seem to mean the same thing: travel, trip, journey, and voyage. But they are not the same.
Okay, wait. So if someone asks me, which word do they use?
Great question. Let's go one by one. First, travel. This is a general word. It's actually an uncountable noun, which means you don't say a travel or travels in most cases.
Oh no, I definitely say a travel sometimes.
Most learners do, so listen carefully. Travel means the general activity of going from one place to another. You say things like, I love travel. Travel is expensive. Business travel is tiring.
So it's like a concept?
Exactly. It's a concept, not a specific event. Now, trip, this is the word you probably use the most in conversation. A trip is a specific journey to a place and back. I went on a trip to Paris. We took a road trip. How was your trip?
Okay, so trip is the one for I went somewhere and came back.
Perfect. And the key phrase is go on a trip or take a trip, not do a trip, not make a trip, even though in many other languages you make a trip.
Oh, that's exactly what I say. I made a trip to London last year.
And a native speaker would say, I went on a trip to London, or just, I took a trip to London. Let's repeat. I went on a trip.
I went on a trip.
I took a trip to Spain.
I took a trip to Spain.
Great. Now, journey. This one focuses on the process of traveling, the time you spend actually moving from A to B. The journey from London to Edinburgh takes about 4.5 hours by train. It was a long journey. The journey was exhausting.
So journey is about the ride, not the destination.
Exactly. And there's a beautiful phrase we use a lot. The journey is part of the adventure. It's about the experience of traveling itself. And finally, voyage. This one is much more specific. It's a long journey, usually by sea or space. The voyage across the Atlantic. The voyage of discovery. You'll mostly hear it in historical contexts or in literature.
So I probably won't say voyage that much in everyday conversation.
Correct, unless you're on a cruise ship. Then people do say bon voyage, which means have a good trip in French, but we use it in English too.
Okay, so let me try to use all 4 in sentences. I love travel. Last year, I went on a trip to Italy. The journey from Rome to Florence by train was beautiful, and someday I want to take a voyage across the Atlantic.
That is perfect, James. Seriously, write that down, everyone. Those 4 sentences show you exactly how to use all 4 words.
To the audience, write that down. Seriously, pause the video and write those 4 sentences in your notebook right now.
All right, block 2, prepositions. These tiny words are the source of so much confusion when talking about travel.
Oh, prepositions. My old enemies.
Let's look at the most common mistakes. First, go to versus go in. James, how do you say where you're going?
Easy. I'm going to France. I'm going to Paris.
Good. Now, what about I'm going in France?
Is that wrong?
Yes, you always go to a place. I'm going to Italy. We're flying to New York. She traveled to Japan. Never go in a place.
What about I'm going to the beach?
Yes, and notice the beach. We use the with specific unique places. The beach, the mountains, the city center, the airport. So you'd say we're going to the beach or driving to the mountains.
What about arriving? I arrived to Paris?
Ooh, classic mistake. You arrive in a city or country. I arrived in Paris. We arrived in Italy. But you arrive at a specific location, a building, a station, an airport. We arrived at the hotel. She arrived at the train station.
So big places in specific buildings at.
Exactly. Let's drill this. We arrived the airport.
At the airport.
We arrived London.
In London.
The taxi arrived our hotel.
At our hotel.
You've got it. Now, one more important preposition, stay at versus stay in. You stay at a hotel, a hostel, an Airbnb. We stayed at a lovely little hotel in Rome, but you stay in a city. We stayed in Rome for 5 days.
So both can appear in the same sentence?
Exactly. We stayed in Rome and stayed at a lovely hotel near the Colosseum. Perfect natural English.
Okay, I need to try a full sentence. Last summer, I went to Spain. I arrived in Barcelona and stayed at a small hostel in the city center.
Beautiful. That's A+ English right there.
Repeat that one out loud, guys. Seriously, say it out loud. That sentence has 3 prepositions, and they're all correct. Practice it.
Now let's talk about something really practical. How do you talk about trips you're planning? This is future tense territory, and there are 3 main ways to do it.
Oh, I always get confused here. When do I use will? When do I use going to? And when do I use present continuous?
Great question, and this comes up all the time when talking about travel. Let's break it down. First, going to. You use this when you have a plan or intention, something you've already decided. We're going to visit Tokyo next spring. I'm going to book the flights tonight. She's going to rent a car.
So it's a plan in my head?
Yes, a decision already made. Now, present continuous. This is for arrangements, things that are already organized, booked, scheduled. We're flying to Rome on Friday. I'm staying at a hotel near the Eiffel Tower. They're meeting their guide at 9 a.m.
So the difference between going to and present continuous is like going to is the intention and present continuous is the booking?
That's a really good way to think about it. If your ticket is booked, use present continuous. If it's just a dream or plan, use going to.
What about will?
Will is for spontaneous decisions and predictions. Oh, look at this hotel. I think I'll book it. It'll probably be very hot there in July. We'll figure out the details later. It's not a pre-made plan. It's something you decide or predict in the moment.
Okay, let me try. Next year, I'm going to travel to South America. That's my big plan. I've already booked flights. We're flying to Buenos Aires in March. I think it'll be an amazing adventure.
That is genuinely perfect. 3 different future forms, all used correctly. Everyone at home, that's your model. To the audience, can you try saying that with your travel plans? Change Buenos Aires to wherever you want to go and say it out loud. Now, what are some useful phrases for talking about planning a trip?
Great, let's go through them. When you want to say you're organizing a trip, I'm planning a trip to, very common. We're thinking of going to, this is more tentative, like you haven't decided yet. I'm looking into visiting means you're researching.
I'm looking into visiting? That preposition trips me up.
Yeah, look into means to research or investigate. I'm looking into visiting Portugal next summer. It sounds very natural. Also, I've always wanted to go to. Great for dreams. It's always been on my bucket list.
What's a bucket list?
Oh, this is a very important cultural phrase. A bucket list is a list of things you want to do before you die. It comes from the expression kick the bucket, which is a slang way of saying to die. So a bucket list is your life wish list. Seeing the Northern Lights is on my bucket list. Japan has always been on my bucket list.
I love that phrase. Seeing every country in Europe is on my bucket list.
Perfect usage. Write down bucket list, everyone. You will hear this constantly in English conversation. Okay, so you've planned your trip, you've packed your bags. Now let's actually get there. This block is all about the vocabulary and phrases you need at the airport, the hotel, and around town.
This is where I feel most nervous, honestly. Like, what if I say something wrong at the airport check-in desk?
You won't after this. Let's start at the airport. What are the key verbs? You check in for your flight, you go through security, you board the plane, you land at your destination, and you pick up your luggage.
Can I say I went to the security?
No, I went through security. It's always go through security. Think of it like passing through. You walk through the metal detectors, through the whole process.
What about luggage? I always confuse luggage and baggage.
They mean the same thing. Luggage is slightly more British, baggage is common in American English, but both are used everywhere. You might see baggage claim at American airports and luggage reclaim at British ones, but you can use either word in conversation.
What phrases do I need at check-in?
Great. So when you walk up to the check-in desk, common phrases are, I'd like to check in for the flight to Madrid. I have one bag to check, meaning one suitcase to put in the hold. Can I have a window seat, please? And the agent might ask you, did you pack this bag yourself? Or does your bag weigh more than 23 kilos?
And what do I say if my bag is too heavy?
Is there anything I can do about the excess baggage fee? Or, I didn't realize it was overweight, very politely said. Now, the hotel. The most important phrase when you arrive. I have a reservation under the name, or I'd like to check in, please. At the end of your stay, I'd like to check out, please. Can I have a late checkout? This is when you want to stay in your room a bit later than the official checkout time.
What about if there's a problem with the room, like the air conditioning doesn't work?
You say, excuse me, I'm in room 204 and there seems to be a problem with the air conditioning, or I'd like to report an issue with my room. There seems to be a problem is very useful. It's polite and not aggressive.
I feel like I just panic and point at things.
Most people do, but knowing these phrases makes it so much easier. And then out in the city, asking for directions, finding places. Could you tell me how to get to the Old Town? Is there a good local restaurant nearby? How far is it to the train station?
What's the most natural way to ask for a recommendation?
What do you recommend is the classic. Or what's your favorite restaurant around here? Or what do locals usually do here? That last one is amazing because it shows you don't want the tourist trap version. You want the real experience.
What do locals do here? I love that. Write that down, everyone. That phrase will get you so much better advice from local people.
All right, block 5. This is one of my favorites, telling stories about trips you've already taken. Because when you come back from a vacation, everyone asks you, how was it? Or how was your trip? And you need to be able to answer with more than just good.
Guilty. That's literally my default answer.
So let's fix that. When you tell a travel story, you use mostly past simple for the sequence of events. I flew to Barcelona. We visited the Sagrada Familia. I tried paella for the first time. But you use past continuous for setting the scene, describing what was happening in the background.
Can you give me an example?
Yes. So imagine you're telling a story about something that happened in Italy. You might say, we were walking through the market when it suddenly started to rain. The walking is past continuous. It was already happening. The started to rain is past simple. It's the new event that interrupts.
Oh, so past continuous is like the background music and past simple is the main event.
That is such a good metaphor, yes. We were sitting at a cafe when a street musician started to play. I was looking at the map when a local woman came up and offered to help.
Let me try. I was exploring the streets of Istanbul when I saw the most amazing mosque I've ever seen in my life.
Perfect. And notice you also used present perfect there. The most amazing mosque I've ever seen. That's for life experiences. It was the best food I've ever eaten. It was the most beautiful view I've ever seen.
Oh, I love that construction.
It's very common in travel storytelling. Let's do a full mini story together. I'll start, you continue. Last year, I went to Japan. I flew from London to Tokyo
And the flight was about 12 hours long. I was watching movies and sleeping when we finally landed at Narita Airport. The moment I stepped outside, I knew it was going to be an incredible trip.
Amazing. The moment I stepped outside, I knew. That's beautiful storytelling. Everyone, try to write your own version of this using a trip you've taken, even if it was just a trip to another city.
Now, Olivia, I know you travel a lot. Tell us a real travel story using all these tenses.
Okay, so I was traveling in Morocco a few years ago. I was walking through the souks in Marrakesh. The souks are these incredible maze-like markets, and I completely got lost. I was trying to find my way back to the hotel. I was looking at my phone when a young man came up to me and said, "You look lost. Can I help?" And I thought, okay, this might be a tourist trap, but he just pointed me in the right direction and walked away. Didn't ask for anything. It was one of those moments that completely changes how you feel about a place.
That's such a great story. And notice how she used both past tenses. I was walking, I was trying, I was looking, all past continuous for the ongoing situation, and then a young man came up, he pointed, he walked away, all past simple for the specific events.
Exactly. Travel stories are some of the best ways to practice these tenses because they're naturally full of both. Okay, final content block before our review, and this one is all about sounding like a native speaker when you talk about travel, because there are some phrases that learners never learn in textbooks, but that you hear all the time.
Like what?
Okay, let's start with off the beaten track. This means somewhere that's not touristy, somewhere unusual and not many people go. We found this little village off the beaten track that wasn't in any guidebook. You'll hear this constantly.
Off the beaten track. I love that.
Then there's hit the road, which means to start traveling, to leave on a journey. Okay, everyone, let's hit the road. And on the road, which means actively traveling. We were on the road for 3 weeks.
What about when you're exhausted from all the traveling?
You say, I have jet lag. That's when your body clock is confused because you've flown across time zones. I'm still jet-lagged from the flight. Or, more casually, I'm completely wiped out from all the traveling. Wiped out means exhausted.
What do people say when they really love a place?
Oh, there are so many. I fell in love with the place. Very common. It blew my mind. It took my breath away. That's for when something is visually stunning. The view from the top of the mountain absolutely took my breath away.
What about the opposite, when a place is disappointing?
You'd say it didn't live up to the hype, meaning it wasn't as good as people said. It was a bit of a tourist trap, overpriced and fake. It wasn't really my kind of place. Polite way to say you didn't enjoy it.
Tourist trap, that's a great one. A place that's designed to take money from tourists and not much else.
Exactly. Also, travel light. This means to pack very little. I always try to travel light, just a carry-on bag. And the opposite would be to overpack, which is to bring too much stuff. I overpacked terribly. I had 4 bags for a 5-day trip.
Raise your hand if you overpack. I absolutely do. Every single time.
And one more. When you come back from a trip and people ask, how was it? You can say things like, it was absolutely incredible. It exceeded all my expectations. I'd go back in a heartbeat, meaning you'd go again without hesitating.
I'd go back in a heartbeat.
That's beautiful. Let me use that in a sentence. I went to Portugal last year, and I'd go back in a heartbeat. It absolutely blew my mind.
Perfect. Write down these phrases, everyone. These are the phrases that will make you sound genuinely fluent.
Okay, it is time for the big review. Let's go through everything we covered today.
Block 1, the vocabulary. There are 4 key words. Travel is the general concept. You can't say a travel. Trip is a specific journey you take and come back from. Go on a trip or take a trip. Journey is about the process of getting from A to B, and voyage is a long journey by sea.
Block 2, prepositions. You go to a place. You arrive in a city or country. You arrive at a specific location, like a hotel or station. You stay at a hotel and stay in a city.
Block 3, future plans. Going to is for things you've decided and planned. Present continuous is for arrangements already booked. Will is for spontaneous decisions and predictions.
Block 4, airport and hotel vocabulary. At the airport, check in, go through security, board the plane, land, pick up your luggage. At the hotel, I have a reservation under the name check in, check out, late checkout. Around town, what do locals do here? Use that one.
Block 5, storytelling. Past simple for the sequence of events. Past continuous for background action, what was already happening when something else occurred. And the construction, the best or most amazing thing I've ever seen, for life experiences.
And block 6, natural expressions. Off the beaten track, hit the road, on the road, jet lag, travel light, overpack, took my breath away, it didn't live up to the hype, I'd go back in a heartbeat.
That is a lot of English in one video, and you should be proud of yourselves for getting through it all. Before we go to the challenge, let's do one final full dialogue using everything we learned. James and I will have a natural conversation about travel, and I want you to listen and notice all the grammar points and vocabulary.
Okay. Olivia, I heard you're planning a trip soon.
Yes, I'm going to visit Greece this summer. Actually, I've already booked the flights. I'm flying to Athens in July.
Oh, amazing. Have you been to Greece before?
No, it's been on my bucket list for years. I've always wanted to go.
What are you planning to do there?
Well, I'm definitely going to visit the Acropolis, and I'd love to find somewhere a bit off the beaten track, not just the typical tourist spots. What about you? Have you been anywhere interesting recently?
Actually, I went on a trip to Portugal last autumn. It was incredible. We were walking along the coast one evening when the sun was setting, and it just took my breath away. I'd go back in a heartbeat.
That sounds amazing. How long was the journey from here?
About 2.5 hours by plane, and we arrived in Lisbon, stayed at a small boutique hotel in the old town. It was fantastic. No jet lag, no overpacking.
Wait, you didn't overpack? I find that hard to believe.
Okay, I overpacked a little, just one extra bag.
One extra bag is still overpacking, James.
See, this is the real-world English we were talking about. Hear how natural that conversation was? Every phrase, every preposition, every tense, all the things we practiced today.
Use this dialogue as a model. Next time someone asks you about travel, you can structure your answer exactly like this.
Okay, here comes the challenge. This is where you get to practice.
In the comments below, we want you to find and fix the mistakes in these sentences. Here they are.
Sentence 1. Last year, I made a trip to Italy and I arrived to Rome in the evening.
Sentence 2. I will visit the Eiffel Tower tomorrow. I already bought the tickets.
Sentence 3. We stayed in a hotel in Paris City and the journey was very long and tiring to arrive there.
Sentence 4. I always travel with many luggage. I don't know how to travel lightly.
And sentence 5. It was the more beautiful view I have ever seen in my life.
5 sentences, 5 mistakes. Write the corrected versions in the comments. We'll go through the answers in our community post. And finally, our question of the day. This week, we want you to answer this.
Think about a place you've visited, or a place you dream of visiting. Using as many of today's phrases as you can, tell us, where did you go, or where do you want to go? How was the journey? What did you see or do? What surprised you? Would you go back?
There's no wrong answer. The goal is to practice. Even if your English isn't perfect, write it out. The more you write and speak, the faster you improve.
And if you want to go the extra mile, tell us one thing that was off the beaten track about your destination, something that most tourists don't know about.
That's a wrap on today's episode. We covered so much, from the difference between trip, travel, journey, and voyage, to prepositions, future tenses, past tense storytelling, airport vocabulary, and loads of natural expressions that native speakers use every day.
Honestly, I feel like a completely different person when it comes to talking about travel in English now, and I've been studying for a while.
That's because this stuff doesn't come from textbooks. It comes from real conversation, and that's exactly what this channel is about.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps us reach more learners just like you. And subscribe to Real World Real Stories so you never miss an episode.
We'll see you next week with another topic, another set of real-world phrases, and another chance to level up your English.
Until then, hit the road, travel light, and never stop learning.
See you next time.